The rain hammered Seattle like God's own percussion section having a nervous breakdown. Sheets of water slapped against the glass of my home office window, each drop racing the others in chaotic streaks that blurred the skyline. From my vantage point, the city looked like it was drowning, but then again, maybe that was just me projecting. When you spend too much time inside your own head, the weather starts to feel personal. Behind me, Samantha's voice sliced through the steady percussion like a cymbal crash that no one asked for. "Elliot, are you even listening?" Of course, I wasn't. 20 years of marriage had taught me the exact timbre of her voice that signaled I was about to be drafted into another family dispute, one where the rules were rigged and the referees were all on her side. The tone was sharp, metallic, like a rusty blade dragged across silk. It meant one thing: prepare to choose between peace and honesty and lose either way. I turned from the window reluctantly. My ergonomic chair creaked under me, a chair she'd bought me 3 Christmases ago, back when she still pretended to care about my chronic back pain from too many late nights hunched over laptops, breaking into systems for corporate clients who paid me obscene sums to find their vulnerabilities. Back then, the chair was thoughtful. Now it felt like a padded monument to obligations I hadn't asked for. Sam stood in the doorway like she owned the place. Technically, she half did. At 39, Samantha Granger could still turn heads at the country club, and she made damn sure she did. Her hair, the exact shade of blonde that stylists describe as natural but costs more than most people's rent, framed a face that could be on the cover of a glossy magazine if not for the sharpness in her eyes. A body sculpted by years of yoga, Pilates and personal trainers was wrapped in designer athleisure that probably cost more than my first car. Every line of her figure screamed discipline and wealth except the clenched jaw that betrayed her irritation. "Sorry," I said, lying through my teeth. "What about Derek?" Her sigh was the kind that belonged in operas, not kitchens. "He's coming for dinner tomorrow night. And Owen," she lingered on our son's name like it was both a blessing and a curse, "needs to apologize." Apologize? For what? I already knew, but I wanted to hear her justification. Wanted to see how far she'd bend logic to protect her precious brother. Owen was incredibly rude to him at Mom's birthday party. I leaned back, lacing my fingers behind my head, watching her with a mixture of amusement and exhaustion. Define incredibly rude. Her lips perfectly glossed, immaculately maintained, compressed into a razor-thin line. He called Derek a trust fund parasite in front of everyone. I tried. Really, I did. But the laugh escaped before I could choke it back. A sharp bark of amusement, the kind you know is going to cost you later. "Well," I said, "Derek is a trust fund parasite." Sam's eyes narrowed, blue fire flickering there. "Elliot, no, let's not pretend otherwise. The man is 42 years old. He's never held a job longer than 6 months, lives in your mother's guest house, drives her Mercedes, and spends her money on whatever scam or get-rich-quick scheme catches his attention that week. If there's a textbook definition of parasite, Derek's face is probably next to it. Then is the green bekommen of the ready honey in way, Anzarin. He's family. So is Owen." Her arms crossed over her chest, nails tapping against the designer fabric in a staccato rhythm. "That's different." Of course, it was. In Sam's world, family wasn't about honesty or accountability. It was about appearances. Maintaining the glossy facade, keeping the cracks out of view, making sure no one at the country club whispered behind their manicured hands. Derek was a leech, but he was her leech, and that made all the difference. "Owen was just being honest," I said. Sam's eyes flashed, twin storm clouds ready to burst. "Honesty isn't an excuse for cruelty." "Cruelty?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. "You want cruelty? Ask Owen how many times Derek's borrowed money from him for gas, knowing damn well he had no intention of paying it back. Or ask me how many of my clients I've had to smooth talk because Derek tried to pitch them his latest crypto pyramid scheme over cocktails." "That's not the point," she snapped. "Then what is?" "The point is," she said, voice trembling with the force of her conviction, "we don't embarrass family in public. Ever. Whatever you think about Derek, you don't say it in front of my mother. Not at her birthday. Not with her friends there." Ah, there it was. The sacred commandment. Thou shalt not embarrass the family. The truth could be flexible, reality negotiable, but appearances? Appearances were law. "And you want me to make Owen apologize?" "Yes, tomorrow night, before dinner." I stared at her, rain still hammering the window behind me. For a moment, I imagined opening the glass, letting the storm in, letting it wash away all the polished lies we'd built our lives around. But instead, I just said, "You know he won't. Then make him." The way she said it, sharp, cold, an order, not a request, made something in my chest tighten. As if Owen were a faulty appliance I was supposed to fix with a wrench and duct tape. "He's 17, I said. "Not a soldier, not a servant, and sure as hell, not a puppet." Sam didn't blink. "He's our son, and he will show respect." Respect. Another word that meant something different in her dictionary. In mine, respect was earned. In hers, it was demanded, polished, and presented on a silver platter, regardless of whether the recipient deserved it. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Her, the immovable force of social expectation. Me, the exhausted cynic, armed with sarcasm and not much else. Finally, she turned, her ponytail swishing like a battle flag. "Tomorrow night, 7 sharp, don't be late." The sound of her footsteps faded down the hall, leaving me alone with the rain and the hum of my computer. My monitor glowed with half-written code, red lines of vulnerabilities waiting for me to exploit them. It struck me then how similar my work was to my life. Both were about finding cracks in systems, weak points in carefully constructed facades. The difference was, in my job, I got paid to expose them. At home, I was supposed to pretend they weren't there. I swiveled back to the window, watching the storm pummel the city into submission. Somewhere down the hall, I heard Owen's laugh, unapologetic, sharp, honest, in a way that made me proud and terrified at the same time. Tomorrow night, Sam wanted me to break that honesty, to hammer it into the shape of politeness. But as the rain poured harder, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. My son was right about Derek, and some truths, once spoken aloud, refused to be buried under appearances. The next morning started with the kind of silence that's louder than words. The kind that hums in the walls and makes the air feel too thick to breathe. Sam wasn't speaking to me, which in theory should have been a blessing, but in practice felt like having a live grenade sitting on the kitchen counter. Eventually, it would go off, and I'd be the one wiping shrapnel out of my metaphorical spleen. I shuffled into the kitchen, unshaven and underslept, and found my wife already in full battle armor, hair pulled into a flawless ponytail, nails freshly painted, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. She was arranging plates of avocado toast like she was hosting a cooking show for people who despised carbs but loved Instagram likes. "Morning," I muttered, reaching for the coffee pot. She replied. The sound clipped and dismissive. A single syllable loaded like a bullet. I poured coffee into my mug, black and scolding, and leaned against the counter. "Where's Owen?" "Upstairs. Sulking." Translation: upstairs being a teenager, which was a crime in her book. "He's not sulking," I said. "He's probably just trying to survive being 17. Sam slammed a plate down on the counter harder than necessary. "He's avoiding me, which is exactly why you need to talk to him." There it was, my marching orders. General Samantha had spoken. Talk to him about what? I asked, even though I already knew. Her eyes narrowed. About tonight. About the apology. I took a long sip of coffee, letting the bitterness burn its way down my throat. He's not going to apologize. Then you make him apologize. You don't make someone apologize, Sam. You can force words out of his mouth, sure, but that's not the same thing. That's just theater. She folded her arms, chin lifting. Sometimes theater is all that matters. And there it was again. The central thesis of my wife's existence. Theater mattered more than truth. Appearances trumped reality. The show must go on, no matter how rotten the script or how wooden the actors. "You're asking me to tell our son to lie," I said. "I'm asking you to tell our son to show respect," she countered. "To Derek? The guy who thinks a 2007 Mercedes is a personality trait? The guy who's been fired from more jobs than Owen has years on this planet?" Her silence was damning. She wasn't arguing Derek's merits because there weren't any. She was arguing for the performance, for the veneer, for the carefully curated family portrait that hung on her mother's wall. "You know what this is really about?" I asked. "It's not about Owen. It's not even about Derek. It's about your mum. You don't want her embarrassed." Her lips tightened, but she didn't deny it. "Newsflash, Sam, Your mum already knows what Derek Island everybody does. The only people pretending otherwise are you and Derek himself." She bristled, shoulders squaring. "This isn't up for debate. Owen will apologize tonight. That's final." There's something infuriating about the phrase "that's final." It's the conversational equivalent of slamming a door in someone's face. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't about reason or fairness or even family. It was about control. Sam needed to control the narrative, and Owen's honesty threatened that. "Fine," I said. "I'll talk to him." Her expression softened just enough to look victorious, and she turned back to her avocado toast as if the matter was settled. But I wasn't planning on giving her what she wanted. I found Owen upstairs in his room, sprawled on his bed with the controller in his hands, eyes glued to the flashing chaos of a video game. His headphones were half on, blasting some kind of bass-heavy track that made the walls vibrate. I knocked once and stepped in. He glanced at me, then back at the screen. "What's up, Dad? Your mum wants you to apologize to Uncle Derek tonight." He paused the game and set the controller down slowly, like he wasn't sure if I was joking. "Apologize? To Derek?" "Yep. For what? Telling the truth?" "Pretty much." He stared at me, incredulous. "That's insane." "Welcome to adulthood," I said, sinking into the desk chair across the room. "Half of it is pretending things aren't insane. Why should I apologize? He's a leech. Everybody knows it. I know it. You know it. Hell, even Derek probably knows it. But your mum wants you to play nice because Grandma was embarrassed at her birthday party." Owen groaned, flopping back onto the bed. "So it's not about me, it's about appearances." "Bingo." He sat up, running a hand through his messy hair. "And you agree with her?" "Not even remotely, but I'm supposed to convince you anyway." "Then don't." And this was erasing more ration. I smiled. The kid was sharp, sharper than I'd been at his age. "I won't. But you need to understand something. Tonight is going to be a war zone. Your mum's dug in. She wants this apology like it's the last lifeboat on the Titanic. Then she's gonna drown because I'm not apologizing." There was a steel in his voice that startled me. Not teenage defiance, but conviction. The kind of conviction I'd lost somewhere along the line, traded for comfort and compromise. "You're going to make my life hell, you know," I said. "Sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all. I laughed. "Don't be. Honestly, I'm proud of you. You've got more backbone than I do." He smirked. "You said it, not me." Dinner prep that evening felt like gearing up for a military operation. Sam moved through the kitchen with the precision of a field commander, barking orders at me and Owen like we were raw recruits. Table settings had to be perfect, silverware polished, wine glasses spotless. You'd think Derek was royalty instead of a middle-aged man-child who once tried to sell nutritional pyramid water on Etsy. By the time the doorbell rang, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Derek breezed in like he owned the place, grinning, hugging Sam, clapping me on the back as if we were old pals instead of reluctant relatives. He smelled faintly of expensive cologne and desperation. "Where's my favorite nephew?" he asked, scanning the room. Owen stepped forward, hands shoved in his pockets, jaw tight. Sam's eyes flicked to him, silently begging, demanding, commanding, and in that moment, I knew. Whatever happened next was going to set the stage for the rest of our lives. The door opened, and there he was. Derek Granger, 42 years of wasted potential squeezed into a slim-fit blazer and jeans that probably cost more than my first semester of college. His grin was blinding. The kind of grin people practice in bathroom mirrors before networking events. The kind that says, "I'm likable, I'm successful. Please don't look too closely at the holes in my life." "Elliot, buddy," he said, clapping me on the back like he was trying to burp me. "How's the cybersecurity world treating you? Still hacking the Pentagon for fun?" I forced a smile. "Something like that." "Ha, knew it. This guy, Sam, he's like our own personal James Bond, but with more carpal tunnel." Sam laughed a little too loudly, a little too brightly, ushering him inside with the warmth of a hostess auditioning for the Real Housewives of King County. Owen stood at the edge of the living room, arms crossed, expression flat as concrete. He didn't move, he didn't speak, he just watched. Derek breezed past him, oblivious. "And there's my nephew. Look at you, almost a man. How tall are you now? 6 foot? 6'1"? 5'11"? Owen muttered. Close enough. I was 6'2" at your age. You'll get there." "No, you weren't," Owen said. Deadpan. Derek blinked, thrown off his script for half a second, then he laughed too loudly. This kid's got jokes, just like his old man. Sam swooped in before Owen could reply. Let's sit down, shall we? Dinner's ready. The dining room gleamed like a showroom. Sam had gone all out. Polished silver, folded napkins, candles flickering in crystal holders. She could have hosted the Queen of England if the Queen had a tolerance for passive-aggressive family drama. We sat, Derek at one end, Sam at the other, me and Owen opposite each other. The unspoken geometry of alliances. So, Derek said, swirling his wineglass like he knew what he was doing, I've got this new project in the works. Revolutionary stuff. Sustainable luxury condos in Costa Rica. Totally green, totally ethical, and investors are already lining up. Owen snorted. It was quiet, but in the silence of the table, it was a gunshot. Sam shot him a warning look. Derek either didn't notice or pretended not to. You wouldn't believe the demand. People want experiences, you know? Not just homes, but lifestyles. And that's what I'm selling. Owen leaned forward. Didn't you say the same thing about your crypto startup? The one that folded after 6 months? Derek froze, wineglass halfway to his lips. Sam's nails tapped against the tablecloth. I could practically hear her whispering in her head, apologize. Now, say it. Owen didn't. He just stared at Derek with the calm intensity of someone disassembling a lie piece by piece. Derek chuckled weakly. Well, you know, not every venture pans out. That's the nature of entrepreneurship. That's the nature of parasites, Owen said. The word hit the table like a hammer. Parasite. It echoed in the clink of silverware, in the hiss of the rain against the windows. Sam's fork froze midair. Derek's smile faltered. My coffee dark soul wanted to laugh again, but I swallowed it. Excuse me? Derek said, voice tight. You heard me, Owen replied. You live off grandma. You've never worked a real job. You take, and then you pretend it's some kind of business venture. That's a parasite. Sam slammed her hand on the table. Owen! But the kid didn't flinch. He was on fire, and once it started burning, there was no stopping him. You want me to apologize, Mum? He said, eyes locked on Derek. Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're 42 years old and still living like you're in college. I'm sorry you've never done anything but suck money out of Grandma's bank account. I'm sorry nobody ever called you out before now. Does that count? The silence that followed was a living thing. Heavy, suffocating, curling around the edges of the room. Derek's face went blotchy red. Sam's lips were pressed into a line so tight I thought they might disappear. I sipped my wine, not because I was thirsty, but because I needed something to do besides laugh or applaud. Finally, Derek pushed back his chair, the legs screeching against the hardwood. You know what? I don't need this. Sure you do, Owen shot back. You need everything. That was it. Derek stormed out, muttering something about ungrateful brats and respect, his cologne trailing behind him like a cheap aftershave commercial. The front door slammed. Sam sat frozen, her perfect dinner ruined, her illusion shattered. She turned to me, eyes blazing. You let this happen. I set my glass down. Correction, I didn't stop it from happening. Her breath came fast, shallow, like she was about to hyperventilate. Do you have any idea what this looks like? To my mother? To everyone? I glanced at Owen, who was still sitting tall, defiant. Yeah, I said. It looks like the truth. And for the first time in years, I felt like maybe we'd done something right. The silence after Derek's exit was the kind of silence you could drown in. The front door had slammed, his cologne was still hovering like a chemical ghost, and all that remained was the sound of rain tapping against the windows and 3 Grangers sitting in a dining room that looked like a crime scene. The table was still perfectly set, candles still flickering, roast chicken still steaming, but the energy was radioactive. Sam's hands trembled as she set her fork down gently, deliberately, as though she were trying not to stab someone with it. Owen leaned back in his chair, victorious in his teenage rebellion, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. And me? I was the unwilling referee, stuck between a wife who prized appearances like sacred scripture and a son who worshipped at the altar of truth. Sam broke first. Unbelievable. Her voice was low, shaking, dangerous. Owen didn't flinch. What? I said what everyone was thinking. What everyone was thinking, she snapped, eyes narrowing into slits. You embarrassed your uncle in our home. You humiliated me in front of my family last week, and now you've done it again. Do you have any idea how this makes us look?" Owen shrugged, a gesture so casual it was almost insulting, like a family with one freeloading uncle and one kid who doesn't lie about it. The smirk vanished from Sam's face. "Don't you dare." "Dare what?" Owen shot back. "Tell the truth?" Her eyes darted to me, as if pleading for backup. "Elliot, say something." I took a sip of wine instead. Because here's the thing, I agreed with Owen. Every word out of his mouth had been a bullseye. Derek was a parasite. Sam's obsession with optics was suffocating. The only difference between Owen and me was that he still had the guts to say it out loud. But I was also staring down the barrel of 20 years of marriage, and I knew when Sam's fury had hit nuclear, so I set the glass down and tried diplomacy. "Maybe we all just need to—" "Don't you dare defend him!" Sam cut me off, her manicured finger stabbing the air toward Owen. "I don't need defending," Owen said, voice calm, steady. "I need parents who aren't afraid of the truth." That one landed. Hard. I saw it hit her like a physical blow. She recoiled, blinking fast, her composure slipping for the first time all night. "Is that what you think?" she whispered. "That I'm afraid?" Owen didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said it all. And that's when the fireworks began. Sam stood so fast her chair toppled backward. "I have sacrificed everything for this family. Everything. And you stand there, in my house, at my table, and you call me a coward?" Owen rose too, taller than her now, shoulders squared. "This isn't about you, Mom. This is about Derek. Stop making everything about you." Her hand flew to her chest like he'd struck her. "How dare you? How dare I what? Point out the obvious?" His voice rose with each word, gaining momentum. "Grandma bankrolls Derek's entire life and you all just pretend it's fine. You let him walk around like he's some kind of success when he's just nothing. He's a leech. And the only reason nobody says it is because you're too worried about how it looks." Sam's face went crimson, her eyes glistening. "You ungrateful little—" "Enough." The word ripped out of me before I even realized I was saying it. My fist hit the table, rattling the silverware, extinguishing one of the candles. They both froze, staring at me. I took a deep breath, chest heaving. This isn't helping. Yelling at each other isn't going to fix anything. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Sometimes yelling was the only thing that ever got said. Sam's voice broke, softer now, but sharper too. "You think this is about Derek? It's not. It's about respect, about family, about not tearing each other apart in public." Owen's reply was immediate. "Respect has to be earned. Derek hasn't earned anything." "Stop calling him Derek like he's some stranger," she snapped. "He's your uncle. He's blood." "So what? Blood isn't a free pass." The kid was relentless, unstoppable. And for a split second, I envied him. Sam turned back to me, tears finally spilling. "This is your fault." My gut clenched. "Excuse me? You've poisoned him with your cynicism, your sarcasm, your bitterness. He used to be sweet. He used to be kind. Now he's just like you." It hit me harder than I expected, not because it wasn't true, but because it was. Owen was like me, sharp-edged, unimpressed by bullshit, unwilling to play along, and Sam hated it. Owen's voice cut in, gentler now. "I'm not like Dad. I'm me, and I'm done apologizing for seeing things the way they are." Sam sank into her chair, face buried in her hands. The sight of her perfect, composed Sam crumbling like that sent a strange pang through me. Pity, maybe, or guilt, or both. Owen looked at me, eyes wide, searching. For what? I wasn't sure. Approval? Reassurance? Permission? I just sat there, the rain pounding outside, the candle smoke curling in the air, feeling like the floor beneath us was splitting open. Fault lines that had been buried for years, maybe decades, were finally breaking apart. And deep down, I knew. There was no going back. The morning after felt like the aftermath of a hurricane. Not the kind that flattens houses and floods streets though, Seattle rain could have done that too, but the kind that leaves everything inside you in disarray. Paper, emotions, tiny shards of dignity strewn across the floor, and the lingering smell of burnt-out patience. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring at the steam curling into the grey light of dawn. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the sky remained a dismal shade of concrete. I sipped, tasted bitterness, and thought about the previous night, the dinner, the explosions, the fallout. Sam was quiet. I could hear her moving through the house somewhere, probably repolishing silverware or scanning her reflection in every shiny surface. That's her coping mechanism. Restore order to the environment when the emotional universe collapses. Owen was at the breakfast bar, chewing silently, headphones around his neck, phone in hand. He'd retreated into his teenage fortress, but there was a spark in his eyes I hadn't seen in a while, a spark of defiance, of clarity. Truth hadn't broken him. If anything, it had strengthened him. I leaned back and considered the wreckage. Derek was gone, probably sulking in someone else's guest house, plotting some new scheme involving NFTs or organic kombucha or whatever fleeting scam the wealthy outsourced to gullible family members. Sam was fuming, probably planning a meeting with her mother to control the narrative, and Owen was just Owen, unrepentant, undefeated, terrifyingly honest. "Dad," Owen said finally, breaking the silence, "are you proud of me?" I blinked. Proud? I felt more complicated things than pride. Relief, awe, fear that the kid was scarier than I'd ever been at 17. "Yeah," I said, "I'm proud of you. You did what you thought was right." He smirked, a faint, sly twist of his lips. "Even if Mom doesn't like it?" "Especially if Mom doesn't like it." There was laughter in the kitchen then, quiet, uncelebrated, the kind that slips out of your chest because the tension is finally cracking. Owen laughed, I laughed, and even though Sam wasn't joining, the sound of our laughter was enough to remind me that life, despite its absurdity, continued. I wandered to the living room, glancing at the wreckage of last night's dinner. Candles half melted, plates slightly askew, wine glasses left where they fell. It was a tableau of truth, chaos, and stubborn teenage morality. I could have cleaned it up. I didn't. Let it sit there. Let it be a reminder. Sam entered the room then, poised, composed, but still hurt, still furious. "This can't happen again," she said, the edge in her voice like steel. "Sure," I replied, calm. "Or maybe it should happen again. Sometimes families need a little chaos to wake up." She didn't answer. Instead, she crossed the room and straightened a pillow, smoothed a tablecloth, flicked a wine stain off the chair like it was a crime scene. I realized then the storm hadn't ended for her. It had only changed form. Owen appeared beside her, arms crossed, chin high. "Mom," he said softly, "truth isn't the enemy." Her eyes flicked to him, a flash of understanding or maybe just resignation. "Sometimes it feels like it is," she admitted. I watched them, mother and son, locked in their war and truce, and felt something shift in me. 20 years of marriage, countless battles, minor victories, and catastrophic defeats. And I realized something. The world isn't about control, or appearances, or winning arguments. It's about survival. About holding the line between honesty and compromise. About letting the kids be themselves while you navigate the rubble. I poured another cup of coffee, heavier than the last. Owen climbed onto the couch with his headphones back on, scrolling through whatever adolescent content sustained him. Sam returned to her cleaning ritual, muttering under her breath, and I sat, watching the rain streak down the window again, thinking about the night that had passed. Derek would return. He always did. Family drama was cyclical, like some twisted cosmic law, but last night, for once, the truth had won a small battle. That truth, in all its uncomfortable, messy glory, had shaken the house, rattled Sam's perfection, and left Owen standing tall. And maybe, just maybe, it had reminded me that sometimes the greatest victories weren't polished or praised. Sometimes they were simply surviving the storm, watching the debris settle, and knowing you hadn't completely lost yourself in the process. I drained my coffee, stood, and walked to the window. The city was still wet, grey, and chaotic, but there was something alive in it, something honest, stubborn, and relentless, just like Owen. And maybe, after all the arguing, the yelling, the storms, both literal and metaphorical, that was enough.